He'll outlet it to Phyllis on the far side wing to McEwen. Top of the three, lets it fly, and he knocks it down. Gets it over to Phyllis. Phyllis takes a quick jumper as he takes the catch. Can't get it. Hughes is there for the rebound for Otterbein, and he's there for the putback right of the rim. And it's intercepted away by Chase Moyer that time, who picked his back pocket. Moyer with a no-look bounce pass to McKenzie on the right side of the rim, and McKenzie gets it to fall. Fakes a pass. Now he penetrates towards the basket. Kicks it out free throw line. Three on the way from the corner for Chase Moyer, and he's able to knock it down.
From the studios of 33 College View, it's time for the Todd, Adrian Coaches Show here on WOBN 97.5. Here is your host, David Kinder.
Good afternoon, and we welcome you into the Todd, Adrian Coaches Show here from the studios of 33 College View. Thanks for tuning in however you are, whether it's on the air on 97.5 on WOBN.net or on demand on WOBN's YouTube page. We thank you all for tuning in. We have a great show planned for you today, and today's show, like every show, is brought to you in part by Westerville Automotive. Serving the Westerville area for 20 years, they have two locations on Westerville Road and in the Uptown area, just seconds away from Otterbein on Main Street. They're on the web at westervilleautomotive.com. You can follow them on Facebook at Westerville Automotive Uptown or call them at 614-890-6700. Joining me in studio today, third-year head basketball coach Todd Adrian and Otterbein freshman point guard Darrell Miller III, who has been starting in the absence of Jake Phillips at that point guard position for the Cardinals the past few games. However, unfortunately, the losing streak continues for the Cards, who have dropped 11 in a row following Wednesday's 90-68 loss to Wilmington and Saturday's 63-55 loss to Capital. Darrell, let's start with that Wilmington game. Otterbein turnover troubles really continued. They had 18 in the first half, finished with 24. What were the Quakers doing that made it so difficult for you guys?
That was definitely one of our worst games for the turnover ratio. They brought the pressure, and we knew that it was going to come, but we just weren't ready for the amount of pressure that they brought. It was heavy all game, even when they were up 20 or so, and they continued to put it on us the whole game.
Coach, Wilmington's R.J. Leppert, such a matchup nightmare, a versatile player. He had a double-double, could go along with 4 assists, 11 rebounds, 2 of 3 on three-pointers. Where does he rank among the most versatile players we've seen this year?
Well, they do a good job with him both games, actually. This one as well. We were actually ahead with 5 minutes and 50 seconds in the first half, and they, like I said, they affected us with the press there. Like Trey had said, about the last 5 minutes, they went on a 26-6 run, I believe, 26-5. And he's a big part of it. What had happened both games when we were up in the first half, they tried to go big with us, and that matchup didn't work out very favorably for them. We were actually doing what we were supposed to be doing, breaking the press, making it a half-court game, and then they sub and they put him at the 4, which is a tough matchup for us. It makes them a lot more feisty on the half-court defense, on the full-court defense as well, and then it makes it more difficult for us to guard them. And he did a good job of taking advantage of the mismatch, and we didn't get the ball across half-court like we needed to, and then throwing it inside because he's not a real big player, but he is talented, and he does create some matchup issues. And if it hadn't been for about a 3-minute stretch there, we were right in that game. I was reading something this morning that's related to baseball and how a lot of those close games come down to they throw some 200 pitches, but really it's between 5 and 7 pitches that matter. Maybe it's guy on first, guy on second, tie ball game, 1 out. It's that pitch or 2 that induces a double play ball that makes a difference between winning and losing. And I'm trying to get our young guys to appreciate those 5 possessions before halftime, put the game out of grasp, and it's something that we couldn't overcome. Even though we kept trying at this level, and you can see our close game against Baldwin Wallace the other day against Capital. We made some plays down the stretch at their place, and they made some plays down the stretch at ours. We made a number of turnovers and bad decisions. And when you're playing, injured, and when you're playing when we're not shooting that well, every pass, every screen, everything you do really matters and is amplified. So that was the case at Wilmington as well. Right before halftime, 5 or 6 loose possessions, and the game's over.
We talked about it in the post-game show down in Wilmington on Wednesday, but let's go back to it again real quick. Marshall Crum having a very good game, 5 of 5 from the floor, all of his field goals coming in the paint, yet in the second half he gets poked in the eye, ends up only playing a few minutes and doesn't return. Can you just talk about the decision to keep Marshall on the bench?
Well, it's threefold actually. Partially the injury, mostly, when they went small with Leopard at the 4, then we kind of had to do the same thing. And Marshall's ball security is something that he's still working on. If you notice his assist-to-turnover ratio in a game like that, especially when we're in comeback mode, because again at 20, we were down 20 points at halftime. He's while he was effective under the rim, our problem was actually getting the ball under the rim. So we elected to play, I think, Grant Finner at the 5 a little bit more because he's really a big guard. He helps us break the press. And, sometime in the second half when you're down 20 and we tried to play a little zone and Marshall's not, he's not really in our zone package as much. You start thinking ahead to that Capital game and thinking, we don't have a lot of legs this time of year. We'd like to go with a guard lineup and maybe save Marshall's legs a little bit for Capital. So there's a lot of things that go into it. You alluded to probably the most important one is when they go small and we're not able to get the ball across half court and into the post. Then our hand is kind of forced as well to try and match up with them instead of making them match up with us when we're down 20-15. We're kind of forced to do that. So, yeah, Marshall, being a post player and not the best against pressure, it was a lot of different factors.
Let's move to that Capital game, but stay with Marshall. The only senior on senior night gets the start, scores a career-high 15 points, has 6 rebounds. It only seems fitting for him to go out like that in front of the home crowd.
Yeah, I was very happy for him, and that game, close game, half-court game, we were able to get the ball down into him a lot. Big guys rely on guards and scheme to get the ball into them in the post, and I thought our guys did a very nice job getting it to him. We were able to put him in some situations to be successful, and he's had a really nice couple of weeks here, really turned it on here at the end of his career. So, yeah, it was really nice. I know he would have liked to have gone out with a win, but, a little bit shorthanded and against a team that has a lot of pride and a lot of tradition and a lot of experience. They weren't going to let us just walk over them that night, and they made some plays at the end, I thought, to win that game.
Darrell, comparing that Wilmington game to the Capital game, halftime against the Quakers, 18 turnovers. Halftime against the Crusaders, just 3 turnovers, and you only trail by 2 points. What was the difference in the ball handling or the passing that led to the less turnovers for the Cards? Well,
Capital, they play mainly a half-court defense and not as much pressure as the Quakers did. They usually bring up just one man, and it's not too much pressure. So that definitely had a difference for us, handling the ball and getting into the post. And when we could get into the post, it would kind of fold their defense, and we would execute a lot better, not against pressure.
Second half, a different story. However, Otterbein scores just 23 second-half points. What halftime adjustments did Capital make?
They really started to bring the ball pressure at that point, and they started fighting in the post a lot more. Yeah.
Coach, Otterbein shot just 58% from the free throw line, missed some key front ends of 1-and-1s. How much did that play into the final result of the game?
Well, at this point in our development, you had mentioned an 11-game losing streak. I think that's the number one thing that guys that don't have a lot of experience playing in big-time basketball games like we have in the OAC every night is just that attention to detail. The execution of a play, reading of a screen, taking care of the ball, proper spacing, those kind of things that usually aren't on guys' minds in high school. They really are amplified at this level, and when you miss free throws, those are empty possessions, and we're really trying to not have a lot of empty possessions, whether it be because of turnovers or a missed shot or a bad shot. And when you get to the free throw line, you've probably worked pretty hard to get there. I was disappointed in that. That's the difference in a win and a loss when it's a 5 or 6 point game. Not to mention the fact that throughout the game, how momentum changes and when the difference between a 2 and a 7-point lead. Those are things that we don't really appreciate yet. And once we do, our ability to win games, that's going to be amplified very quickly once we get that attention to detail. And we shouldn't come into a game like that and shoot poorly. We're a better shooting team than that, I think. But we've done it throughout the year, every once in a while. Sometimes I think that shows maybe a little fatigue, but probably a little bit more, concentration issues.
The two losses dropped the Cards to 3-20 on the year, 2-14 in league play. When we return from the break, Otterbein closes out the season with a pair of road matchups. When we come back, we'll talk with Coach and Darrell about this week's games. You're listening to the Todd, Adrian Coaches Show here on 97.5 WOBN. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm LeVar Burton, and I'm proud to be a book person. How do I choose a book? Sometimes it's the cover, sometimes it's the title. I guess I'm pretty visual. If a book's really impressing me and the writing is really good, I will peek and see what the last paragraph is, because the endings of books should rock you. I am a book person, and if you're a book person too, read to a child and spark a lifetime of ambition. Join me at bookpeopleunite.org, because reading is fundamental. A public service announcement brought to you by Reading is Fundamental, Library of Congress, and the Ad Council.
Hey Cardinal fans, Otterbein Athletics on the Radio is brought to you in part by Westerville Automotive. Serving the Westerville area for 20 years, they have 2 locations on Westerville Road and in the Uptown area, just seconds away from Otterbein on Main Street. They're on the web at westervilleautomotive.com. You can follow them on Facebook at Westerville Automotive Uptown or call them at 614-890-6700. That's Westerville Automotive.
This is head coach Todd Adrian, and you're listening to Cardinal Basketball on 97.5 WOBN Westerville, your source of Otterbein athletics.
There be many pirates that sail these 7 seas. Barbossa, Blackbeard, Jack Sparrow. But there be only one pirate you need care about. The MC DJ MC. Every Thursday from 8 to 10, he sails for Pirate Radio on WOBN, playing everything you want to hear on your college radio station, The Wild Card.
Fewer than 5 out of 100 people give blood. Ever wonder why they do it?
It's the one thing that we can do that we can always afford to do, and hey, you get a snack afterwards. So
snacks are great. I had never knew my blood type, and I found out in doing this that I'm O negative, so there's that added pressure knowing that everyone can use my blood at any time, and so I feel like it's my responsibility.
It's a little extra bragging power too, knowing that you're a universal giver.
Yeah, I'm pretty special.
Call 1-800-RED-CROSS or visit redcrossblood.org to make an appointment today.
I'm Drew Brees, and being a dad means the world to me. And one of the most important things any parent can do is make sure their kids get active at least 60 minutes each day. Studies show that physical activity not only helps kids stay healthy, it can enhance important skills like concentration and problem solving, which can improve academic performance. This means physical activity can help your kids in the most important game of all, life. Learn more at fitness.gov.
Brought to you by HHS.
Welcome back here on 97.5 WOBN to the award-winning Todd Adrian Coaches Show. Coach Adrian and Otterbein freshman point guard Darrell Miller III in studio with me, David Kinder. Otterbein will conclude their 113th season of basketball this week with a pair of tough road games this Wednesday at Marietta and Saturday in Tiffin, taking on Heidelberg. Coach, let's look at that Wednesday game first as the Cards take on still ranked number 3 in the country, the Marietta Pioneers, in Van Johnson Fieldhouse. Marietta started out 21-0. They've lost their last 2 games to Mount Union and John Carroll, are now tied for first place in the OAC with the Purple Raiders. Coach, any chance you think Marietta might be looking to take out some of their frustrations after they've lost their perfect season?
Yeah, I don't think we're going to be sneaking up on them tomorrow night when we show up down there. I think Marietta's a good team. I don't take anything away from them. They played 2 of their toughest games of the year this last week when they went to John Carroll and when they went to Mount Union. And kind of a scheduling deal for them. Those are 2 tough places to play against 2 very good teams. So I don't know that to say it surprised me because I know how good those teams are on the road especially. But they're definitely gonna be ready for us, and we're gonna have to bring it every possession. There's no doubt about that.
Darrell Otterbein already played Marietta once this year in the Reich Center on January 14th, lost 39 points to the Pioneers in that game. You were out with an injury, didn't play in that game, but still, what do you remember from that first matchup this year with Marietta that they do really well?
Everything. They can shoot, they can pass, they play phenomenal defense. The biggest thing is what we're going to have to do is stop them in transition. We got to get back on defense, and we just have to have a hand up the whole game.
Coach, Marietta does a really good job of spreading around their scoring. All 5 of their starters average over 9 points per game. How do you prepare for a team when you can't guess where the majority of the scoring is going to come from night in and night out?
Well, there's a number of teams that you can kind of scheme, and we can coach the guys up, and we can give some help and help off of certain guys. And you're right. Marietta is what we're building towards, balanced scoring, everybody that can hit an open shot. And that's what makes it partially so difficult is, you have to guard everyone. There's no scheming. You got to put your nose on the ball and keep your guys in front, contest his shot. And they do some good things offensively to try and, get you into difficult positions. But the bottom line is they have very talented players, and, you can do everything right, and they still hit shots. So they got a nice post player that can step out. He was one of their most effective three-point shooters the first time we played him. But at the same time, he's a guy that you almost have to double team, and once you do that, the shooter's towing the line, especially in their gym, makes it a little more of a daunting task. So, we're just going to have to be there and try and guard our guy the best we can, and then take care of the ball and get great shots on the other end. A lot of times, if you can control the tempo against them, it gives you a better chance. Not going to guarantee a win, certainly, but that's one way that you can try and keep them from being so effective offensively is making them play defense a little bit longer than they're used to.
Well, you talk about defense. Defensively, the Pioneers have the OAC's top defense, giving up a league-best 70 points per game, and they hold opponents to 40% from the field. How do you try to score on them?
Well, you have to have patience. They do a good job schematically. They do things well most of the time. So you have to be patient. You have to keep putting them in different situations, and keep attacking, keep the pressure on them. And when they do make a mistake, if they do, then you got to be able to knock that shot down. So, they do play a little. They're obviously one of the best defensive teams in our conference. We got to be prepared to do the things we need to do. And sometimes you just have to screen a little bit harder, set your man up. Make a harder cut. We got to be prepared to do all those things against a team like this.
Darrell, moving towards that Heidelberg game in Tiffin this Saturday, the last game of the year for Otterbein. The Student Princes enter the game currently 10-13, 6-10 in league play. Darrell, the season probably hasn't gone as hoped for, but how important would it be to finish the season with a victory, taking some momentum into the offseason?
It's as important as the first game. Definitely, we would want that momentum to be on our side going into the offseason and carry over to the next season. If we could finish the season positive, that'd be great. But we just got to take it one game at a time and finish what we started.
Coach, looking at that Heidelberg game, what do you remember that the Student Princes do really well that could give Otterbein some troubles?
Well, like we talked about, the Wilmington, once they made that adjustment, went with 4 guards. Heidelberg's 4 or 5 guards. So it's a contrast in styles where we want to, play more of a half-court game, get the ball in the post. They're looking to push tempo, try and turn us over, and run a 5-out, 4-out, 1-in type of a style. So it's something that we're still learning to deal with. I was watching that Kansas-West Virginia game last night. They call it Press Virginia because they always have the pressure on, and Kansas has a day to prepare and travel. They were learning on the fly last night, and they have a bunch of young guards as well. I thought they did a nice job. They missed some shots at the end. They missed some free throws at the end that ultimately opened the door for West Virginia. But, it's similar to how, our learning curve right now, learning how to compete against teams in our league. There's probably 4 or 5 of them that do play with 4 or 5 guards, 5 out, lots of pressure. It's just going to take some time, and it's one of those things that, yeah, you know what, there's a very few teams that get to end the season on a win. They're either, they're on both ends of the spectrum. They're the national champions or teams that don't make their tournaments. Either way, though, it is a good feeling. It would be nice for us. It's going to be senior night down there. So, that usually puts a little bit more emphasis on that team. But you know what? It's just like Trey just said. We're trying to take one game at a time. Just keep getting better. Trying to maintain our focus and learn how to win in the OAC and how important every possession is. So, I'm looking forward to both games this week, and I know our guys are going to keep going out there, whether we have a chance to make the tournament or not. They play with a lot of pride, and these guys are well aware of the fact that, I think a lot of our guys are poised and excited about the off season. Not that they want this season to be over, but they know what they didn't know, 4 months ago. Now they know what it takes. They know that it's not just coach speak when we talk about ball handling and how much you have to improve your shooting and your physique. And I've seen it and I've heard it from them that they're looking forward to getting back in the weight room, back in the gym. These 6 or 7 months that we have off, so that next year, we're talking about 4, 5, and 6 game winning streaks and not 4, 5, and 6 game losing streaks, because it really is just 500 shots a day, 20 pounds in the off season of muscle. And all that experience that we, all the losses we're going through now, the tough times, I can see in our guys that they want to turn that around, and they're enthusiastic about continuing to learn and battling and trying to get some wins here late, but really about the future of the program and getting back to work in the off season.
Darrell, standing-wise, both of these games are technically meaningless from a standings point. Otterbein mathematically eliminated from the tournament. Both Marietta and Heidelberg are in the tournament. It's just up to seeding now where they're going to be in the tournament. So what's the motivation behind both of these games?
Getting better. That's what we got to carry with us. And it's just more experience that we can take in and gather with us on this long road that we have ahead of us. Every game is just another step to get better, and if we continue to take a step forward and not two steps backwards, we'll definitely start making a lot more progress.
Coach, for this Heidelberg game, can you give us any update on the injury report? I know Mark McEwen tweaked his ankle again in that Capital game, and can we expect to see Matt Hughes back for either of these two games this week?
Well, Mark is, his ankle's tender. These are two tough games for him because, especially Heidelberg, having a lot of smaller, quick players, it's difficult on a tender ankle to stay up with those, but he's going to do everything he can, and he's been rehabbing and getting better. Matt would have been nice. The first game against Capital, he had 20 points and 10 rebounds, and then wasn't able even to suit up the other night. So, that's a blow to us, and especially with our lack of depth and our lack of upperclassmen. When you have somebody go down at this point, in our development as a team, sometimes it's tough to replace because we just don't have that experience depth like we would in a couple years when we're bringing juniors and seniors off the bench and those guys are backups and starters. So, yeah, he's probably not going to play this week either. He's technically just his day-to-day, but I think with an injury like that, probably letting him continue his rehab and get stronger, it's probably the smart thing to do, and that's what our training staff's been telling me. So, that's where we're going to go. So, as much as we'd like to have him out there on the court, he's just not healthy right now to be able to play.
When we return from the break, the NBA All-Star Game was this weekend. We'll talk about it with Coach and Darrell, and we'll see what their favorite part of the All-Star festivities are. You're listening to the Todd, Adrian Coaches Show on 97.5 WOBN. Don't go anywhere.
Hey Westerville, did you know there is only one showcase on WOBN that features country music? I am talking about Campus Country. I'm here every Monday night at 8 playing the best country music. There's always time for country artist news, and on my show, you'll get to hear the newest songs and unreleased songs that you can't hear on those big stations. So tune into Campus Country every Monday night at 8 o'clock right here on your college radio station, 97.5 The Wild Card.
WOBN 97.5 is your seat to Cardinal basketball this season. WOBN will have live coverage of 25 men's and women's basketball games. Be sure to tune in for the pregame show 15 minutes before tip-off and stay with us after the game for stats, analysis, and player and coach interviews. Check out WOBN.net for a complete broadcast schedule.
Would your business survive a disaster? Nearly 2/3 of businesses aren't prepared for an emergency, and 40% of businesses that experience a disaster never recover. Make an emergency plan now before it's too late. For a free online tool that helps you develop an emergency plan to keep your business up and running should disaster strike, visit ready.gov/business. Brought to you by the Federal Emergency Management Agency, the American Red Cross, and the Ad Council.
This is Marshall Crum, senior forward on your Otterbein basketball team, and you're listening to Cardinal basketball on 97.5 WOBN, Westerville, Ohio, your source for Otterbein athletics.
When I grow up, I want to be a new pair of blue jeans.
When I grow up, I want to be a kid's first computer.
I want to be a warm fleece on a cold day.
Football
I want to be a bike that races around the country.
I want to be a bench on a forest trail.
When I grow up, I don't want to be a piece of garbage. And if you recycle me, I won't be.
Give your garbage another life. Recycle. Learn how at iwanttoberecycled.org. Brought to you by Keep America Beautiful and the Ad Council.
Today is Saturday. 60 minutes of physical activity a day and eating well can help get your child healthy. Get ideas, get involved, get going at letsmove.gov. That's letsmove.gov. A message from USDA, HHS, and the Ad Council.
This presentation of Otterbein basketball on the radio is brought to you by our sponsors: Ohio Health, Roush Honda, BMI Federal Credit Union, and Westerville Automotive.
I used to be one of those irresponsible guys, always goofing off and acting like a real jerk. Girls wouldn't give me the time of day. Hey, Julie, do you have the time?
Shut up.
Then, 30 days before my 18th birthday, I went down to my local post office and registered with Selective Service overnight.
I became aware of the man I had suddenly become, eligible for federal student loans, government jobs, and job training, responsible and mature. Hi, Julie. Dinner tonight?
I'd love to, Brad.
So register with Selective Service. It's what a man's gotta do.
Welcome back here on the Todd, Adrian Coaches Show. As always, I'm your host, David Kinder, joined by Coach Adrian and freshman point guard Darrell Miller. It's time for the final segment of the show, where we talk about something basketball off Otterbein's campus, and this weekend was the NBA's All-Star Game. For what it's worth, the West beat the East in a defensive-oriented game, 163-158, and a game that saw 133 three-pointers attempt. Coach, we'll start with you. Obviously, not a traditional basketball game by any stretch, but do you take any enjoyment in the All-Star Game festivities still?
Absolutely. I mark it on my calendar first thing of the year. Tyson and I sat down, had a bunch of popcorn. We didn't miss a play. It was amazing, just how talented those guys are, and it was a showcase of three-point shooters this year. There's no doubt about it. I think they shot. I didn't count them. It was 150 some. I mean,
133.
Thank you. 100. It seemed like 150, but 133. I mean. Yeah, they're just the best. They're the best players in the world out there having some fun.
I feel like I can sense some sarcasm in your voice there.
No. I watched every play, sometimes twice.
Darrell, going to you, maybe with the more younger generation, if you can appreciate all the three-pointers in the game. Are you a fan of the All-Star Game? Do you take any enjoyment in it?
I think, as I guess you could say, a younger generation, we're more interested in all the dunks almost. The alley-oops are a big thing, and the three-pointers were definitely pretty cool, but there were some big dunks in that game coming from LeBron. Steph Curry with a big-time alley-oop was pretty nice. So they're definitely interesting to watch them leap up there. It's pretty nuts.
So did you enjoy the dunk competition the night before with Zach LaVine winning it?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. The things how athletic they are, and I wish I could have a little bit of that.
Coach, based on your response to the All-Star Game, I'm assuming you're not much more of a fan of the skills competition before.
Well, I'm just going to echo what Trey said. I wish he had a little more of that as well. There's no doubt about that. But You know what, I think it's pretty good for the game. I thought the 3-point contest was interesting this year. I mean, this is for when you're looking at college basketball and most of what those guys are and the better players are just great athletes. And you've seen some skill go away from our game at our level to showcase maybe the best set of shooters the NBA's ever seen. With what Korver's doing right now and his plus 50% 3-point percentage, the Splash Brothers out there on the West Coast. I thought that was interesting, at least an interesting storyline. And, big surprise, Steph Curry won the thing. I don't know that. I mean, you hear his name being thrown around as, and I'm not sure how how much you can argue it, that he might be the best long range shooter in the history of the game, off the dribble, off the catch. He's just so smooth, and he can create it for himself and others, almost at the drop of a hat. I mean, what he and Thompson do out there in Golden State is pretty fun to watch. I don't watch a lot of NBA, a little bit. But I'll tune in when those guys are on because it's sometimes they can the things they do with the ball right now and their ability to shoot is second to anything I've seen. And I was lucky enough to watch Reggie Miller and Larry Bird, and some of those really good shooters. John Paxson, a great catch and shoot guy, but definitely a compliment shooter. And when you watch a guy like Steph Curry, it's really impressive, especially when you realize he was a McDonald's All-American. He played at what would be considered a mid-major Division I school. But I did see a picture where he was sitting on the bench this year's All-Star game, and I think 20-some years ago they had superimposed when he was sitting on his dad's lap. A great shot from ESPN, and I guess not a surprise that he is the player that he is.
I guess you should get a 2016 calendar to mark when the next All-Star game. Get ready for it. It's coming up.
It's already on there. I couldn't be more excited.
Well, we thank everyone for joining us here on 97.5 WOBN for this week's edition of the Todd, Adrian Coaches Show. Reminder to tune in tomorrow for Cardinal basketball live from Van Johnson Fieldhouse in Marietta. Tip-off between the Pioneers and the Cardinals is at 7:30. Our coverage starts at 7:15. For Coach Adrian and Darrell Miller, this is David Kinder saying so long. We'll talk to you tomorrow.